Now, this is a very important information, this variable on the use of cash. If you think about most of our theories of money demand based on transactions, they scale the holdings of money with something that is supposed to be related to transactions, but it's kind of like some other variable, like the income or consumption. You really want to know really how much you are using this cash from transactions. And also conceptually, I hope it will be more clear later on, there's kind of two different margins why you may have cash for the purpose of transactions. One margin is that you may conduct some transactions in cash and some in some other way, credit, for instance, paying with a credit card or something like that. And another source of actually money demand is that given that you're going to have so many transactions with cash, there's an issue of how much cash you get in average. So if you want to think about classic papers, that would be Baumol-Tobin. It's a classic paper inventory theoretical model in which you have some cash. You don't study what you pay with cash and what you don't. You take as given that you're going to pay with cash, and then you study the consequences for cash management. A paper that is in the opposite side will be Lucas and Stocky, a cash credit model. That's a model in which it's kind of single period. So by making it into one period, you don't have any inventory sort of concerns. You don't think about how often I go to the bank and do stuff like that. But then you think about which goods do I pay with cash and which goods I pay with a credit card. And of course, if somehow the benefits and costs change, you also have less cash. These two are sort of complementary, but then there's an issue of how to measure them in the data. This data set is unique by having variables such as this. Okay. All right, but for now, the one thing that I want you to notice is sort of the people use a lot of cash in Italy. They use a lot of cash in Europe in general. We have similar data sets for France and for Austria, in France they use a little bit less cash than in Italy, but Austria, which is the country that is in average a bit richer than Italy, because the south really drives down the GDP per capita in Italy, it's still used more or less the same amount of cash. Okay, so
You have a breakdown of these levels like councils and stuff.
yeah, but yes.
But it's still bigger, even in the north.
No. It's bigger in the it's bigger in the south, but it's still big. But the whole point of this of this paper is that in this first paper we're going to abstract from this. We're going to abstract from the cash credit because we do have the observation of how much you use for cash, and we're going to concentrate on how you manage your inventories to attain that purchase. We have some other paper where we're doing kind of like the other part of the approach. That's why I don't want to talk about that, and that's the answer to his question too. Now, the example of innovations that we have in mind are these sort of kind of technology for withdrawal, basically ATM cards, ATM machines, and also having more bank branches. Italy has gone to, in particular, when they enter into, this is a slow process of being part of the rest of Europe, because they got a lot of restrictions with the banks. If you somehow follow, like the last president of the central bank of Italy was sort of fired, I don't know how to say it some other way, because impeding foreign banks and other European banks to enter into it. So the banking sector in Italy has been really shielded from competition. So that's why, in terms of bancarization, Italy looks a little bit more backward than the neighbors of comparable GDP per capita. And in this time is the time in which there are all these pressures from the rest for harmonization in the European Union. So you see a big trend in terms of having more banks, more bank branches per person, and also increasing the dispersion between different areas of Italy, where they have basically kind of local monopolies. So we want to basically look at something like the effect of this on cash holdings. Let me sort of kind of try to be concrete and get into kind of like why we think that we can make some progress that you couldn't have done before, even this data set. And it's going to be a little bit of an interplay between theory and data measurement. So the idea is that we're going to not sure what is the best way to proceed. But the idea is that we're going to consider the problem for a household that has already decided the cash expenditures. So, I want to buy with cash this many goods per month, let's say. And the question is, how do I manage my affairs to do so in the cheapest possible way? That will be kind of the equivalent of the Baumol-Tobin type of line of attack on money demand. So why they buy this much as opposed to something else, we are not going to study. And the reason why, for us, this is relatively easier to do is because we do have this measure of how much of the purchases are paid with cash, as opposed to any other paper. So the notation, and then I want you to keep in mind, is that C is cash expenditures, and then we're going to have a bunch of variables that are measured. This is survey data, so a lot of measurement error, but there are questions about them that are precisely the questions that you're facing in an inventory model. So if you think about this, if you're not familiar with Baumol-Tobin, think about how often to put gasoline in your car. So there are two questions first. You need to travel so many miles per month. And there's one question, which is the cash credit question in monetary economics, would be, do I take the train or do I take my car? Now suppose that you decided how many miles you're going to be taking your car. Now the question is how much gasoline you put in your car and how often you go and replenish. Okay? So assume the separability with the first question, where you use your car and you take the train, which in our theory would be where you use, credit cards or cash. Then the second question is how often you refill your tank. That will tell you the average amount of gasoline that you have in your tank. That will be kind of the money demand. So things that will show up there is the average amount of gasoline that you have in your car, how often you go and you replenish your car. That will be the reciprocal of that is the number of times that you go to the gas station. How low you get your, do you go there when your tank is empty or not? So this M over bar is in average how much gasoline you have in your tank or how much cash you have at the time that you go and you replenish either in an ATM or in a bank branch. W will be how much gasoline you actually put in your car, or when you withdraw money, how much you withdraw in average. And R will be some opportunity cost of cash, something like an interest rate, and we'll use some other variables too. So I just want to say it again, in this paper, what is not studied, the decision of what to buy with cash, and we care about partly because, by having these measures, sort of easier for us. Yes. Okay, so that's an easy question. So I'm going to go through Baumol-Tobin first. Okay, so this is kind of what we teach undergraduates.